accidentally banned in a way that force-stepped onto his Ezreal, and they still couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah, kind of funny. Maybe they want to target their bans in a different direction this time around for game number 2. This time KT will be on blue side and will get first ban as a result.
And I wouldn't be surprised to see if they actually ban away the Malzahar just so they don't have to deal with it. Because the Malzahar for the ROX Tigers is one of the main driving forces. And with the ROX Tigers having the counter pick now, you don't want to leave that open, especially because Malzahar is flexible.
As we said at the start of the first game, a lot of these first 3 bans for both teams are very much targeted at some of the more OP champions, the stronger champions in League of Legends right now. There's the hover on that Malzahar ban, though, as you were expecting.
Yeah. And, you know, when it comes to picks and bans, right now, again, this is day number 1, this is match 1. It's really difficult for teams to know exactly what is the strongest strengths that are available inside of champions in the current meta, because this current meta has, I think, the largest champion pool that has ever happened in League of Legends in any competitive season. And so there is just so many super powerful picks, and it's necessary to just take them off the table. And, you know, things like Rengar, Camille, Malzahar, Zyra, LeBlanc, there's just so much. So I think that the real key comes in the second part of the ban phase.
Yeah, you're definitely correct. I mean, go ahead and check out LS's tier list for 7.1 competitive play somewhere on your Twitter. No doubts. There are just so many different champions that are God tier, S tier. It's quite impressive. So going back into these bans, Camille, second ban here for ROX, and then Elise is going to be the ban for KT.
So now, if the Rengar, well, you have to ban the Rengar. ROX is highlighting it, but I don't think that you can give Rengar over to KT, who have the first pick. And we'll have to see what they end up picking.
Well, Rise, definitely one of the great mid laners still on the table, is going to be almost immediately locked in by Speb.
Yep. And now with the ROX Tigers, what are they going to go for again? There is an Ashe highlight. Now the thing about Ashe is that her and Varus have really good explosive matchups against Caitlyn and Jhin. And also, they're supposed to have an edge over Ezreal. So she's a pretty safe first pick, and it doesn't really give away too much about your team composition.
Very true. Also, the Lee Sin is going to be picked up. Not banned this time around. I think it was banned by ROX first time. So looks like Someone is going to be playing that Lee in the jungle. We had Ashe locked in before, and now Varus is the other kind of God tier AD carry at this point in the game. So going to be picking up Varus.
And with the Varus lock-in, the Rek'Sai hover. With the Lee banned, obviously the Lee Sin pick came in. He is still one of the best junglers in the game. It really limits what is going to be able to be picked against him. Oddly enough, I wouldn't even be surprised if Olaf was actually locked in over Rek'Sai. I was talking to a lot of Korean players, and they still think that with all the jungler bans and with what's happening to the jungle, he just sort of might still be necessary because of how the picks and bans phase can turn out.
We do see the lock-in onto Cass as the third pick for red side for ROX. Definitely a good choice against Rise in the mid lane. And they wanted to just secure Ashe and Lee Sin a little bit earlier on, and Cass definitely a nice pickup as well. So now going into the second banning phase, red side will have the first ban here. It is going to be Rumble.
Rumble, a little bit of an interesting ban, given that Varus deals magic damage, Rise a very heavy source of magic damage, and Rumble, he deals magic damage, but it's periodic, and so now when it's handed back over to KT, with the Ashe pick already being up there for ROX, there it is, there you have the Zyra, and now Misfortune is still on the table, and so you have to wonder what's going to happen here, and now we see a Thresh hover for a potential ban. Yeah, so they're banning out supports, and that means the MF needs to get picked up.
Now, do you think that this is in a way forcing them to pick up MF? They just want to take away the Thresh to kind of pull them into one pick here?
Well, I think that they're limiting the options to MF and Karma, and KT now hovering that Karma ban potentially would mean that Misfortune becomes the pick of choice, and then if that occurs, with Malzahar being banned, you have to wonder what's going to happen next.
Well, some other choices that still remain, I suppose Braum or maybe even Bard, some of those, you know, lower tier comparatively supports still available. Looks like the top lane might be taken here for ROX to start things off with that Poppy being hovered.
and more pick potential added to the ROX Tigers team composition. And this time around, with the Seonghwan and Mickey, Lee Sin, Cassiopeia dynamic, there's certainly a lot more room for chaos in mid on a micro level, whereas Syndra is obviously just burst-centric, but I'm excited to see what's going to happen. And a Tahm Kench hover.
There you go. I know you're happy about this one, LS. We'll see if they actually do decide to lock that in. That's another one of those supports that is still up on the table that we did fail to mention. With only 5 seconds left, it could be that Tahm.
Yep. And looks like now that's a lot of magic damage. And Rek'Sai doesn't really deal that much physical. So we're going to have to see a physical damage top laner. And there it is. There's the Fiora hover. And she's the only other physical damage champion that exists, with Poppy already being taken away.
I suppose Jace would be another option as well. It was not banned just yet, but Fiora.
With Jace is that a lot of people think of Jace as a counter to Poppy, but generally, as long as Poppy can get to the first core item, Jace isn't really that good. It would be okay to go into like a poke style using Jace and the Varus, but it's very coin flippy.
So you feel like Fiora is just the safer, more consistent choice for this game?
Yeah.
We do have Bard. Is going to be the lock-in, in fact, for Key. So another one of those supports with so many banned out here. I mean, you had Malzahar, Zyra, Karma, Thresh, all taken away. So we do get down to those lower tier supports. Tahm Kench and Bard going to be the choices.
Yep. And this might have been intentional, as Key is one of the best Bard players in Korea. He actually was known for it. That was his claim to fame when he first burst onto the scene, was how good he was with Bard. And so again, ROX with a very, very strong pick composition. And this time around, KT, they have a little bit more control. I would say roughly around the same amount of poke inside of the Varus compared to the Ezreal, but not as much flexibility or maneuverability. But that's going to be okay because they have the Tahm Kench pick to get Deft out of danger if it occurs. But the split push from Fiora is going to be a very, very big problem for the ROX Tigers.
Yeah, who are they going to send down there to go 1v1 is really the question. And the Tahm Kench, kind of interesting, you know, will save against that Ash Arrow. Perhaps they will have to focus down the Tahm Kench in the bot lane if they want to secure a kill. So either way, taking a look at the team composition here for KT. Fiora for Smeb, Rek'Sai for Spore, Ryze for Pawn, Varus for Deft. Of course, Tahm Kench for Mata. Going over to the other side, Linderong will go onto that Poppy. Someone picks up Lee Sin, Cassiopeia for Mickey, Ashe for Songyun, and Bard to line it all up here for Keith. So here we go, guys. Jumping into game number 2 here of the first matchup of LCK Spring 2017. It's been fun so far. Let's jump into game number 2 right now. Jumping onto Summoner's Rift for game number 2 of KT Rolster versus the ROX Tigers.
Yep, and here we go, starting it out. Again, we have one of those fans. But a little bit interesting of a start as Mata making his way up to top lane. And that Tahm Kench, if he can get some auto attacks off, it's able for him to use his Tongue Lash to perhaps stun Linderong if he was out of position. So I think that's the cheese that KT was looking for. They're not going to find it, however, and now Mata waddles his way down to bottom lane.
So I heard recently, LS, that you were able to make it into Master Tier out here in Korea on the back of one of the guys that seems to be benched a lot of the time.
And time to unbench the Kench, get on his boat. He sails down to bottom lane.
I love it, man. It's how do you feel about Tahm Kench? Seems to be a high skill cap, you know, but not seen all too often.
He's not seen that often. I think generally he's actually quite bad right now because in bottom lane, if you have to play a melee support, you're just basically at an innate disadvantage in this current meta when you have stuff like Zyra, Karma, Malzahar, Bard, Thresh with Courage of the Colossus available. And so the Tahm is basically a team pick type of a pick. It's not intended to have any sort of purpose in the bottom lane other than to keep Deft safe.
Oh, look at that. A bit of trading to begin the mid lane, as both players going to be forced to use some of that sustain. And, you know, Mickey, you were talking about it before. He tried in the previous game to really just put a ton of pressure onto Rise before he could go and recall and get that tier very fast. So perhaps an idea that he was going for in this game as well.
Yeah. One of the interesting things this time around is that both junglers are Monolith champions, but Score already elected to actually take his blue buff, and we're going to see if Seonghwan actually tries to take his blue buff, or he's going to hand that to Mickey, but looks like he's actually going to take it. So both junglers with the standard 3 camp clear, and Pawn definitely looking to recall into his tier early on, most likely.
He's getting close, already placing a ward on the right side of that mid lane, wants to make sure no cheeky early ganks coming out of that Lee Sin. You do not want to get behind as the Rise against Cassiopeia, and even get that Lee snowball started.
And then both junglers elect to continue clearing camps. And now Seonghwan's going to be able to get the jump up on the Scuttle Crab. This is going to provide a pretty good safety net to bottom lane and mid lane. Interestingly enough, Pawn hasn't been able to get the recall off, and I think he's actually under too much pressure to be able to secure that recall. And Seonghwan's right here, just on the edge of vision.
That ward placement is interesting too. It's not in the brush, it's just a little bit more to the right to get a bit more vision of the river and make sure they can 100% see Lee Sin coming in.
Now up in top lane, Smeb continuing to just constantly shove the minion wave underneath Linderong's turret as Score makes his way to bottom lane.
He does have the potential to try to jump on, but going to choose to back.
And Smeb has to be really careful here, but meanwhile in bot.
Oh, look at that. Magical Journey shut up. And Seonghwan is going to get out after using his flash to get away from Score. He used his flash as well.
One of the other things this is actually causing right now is that with Score in bottom lane, as some of the CS dies, this also then further guarantees that ROX is going to be able to get their level 6 spike earlier than KT. And so they're going to have to keep that in mind when watching their own experience bars and trying to judge when is Ashe going to hit that level up.
Yeah, a very small point, but definitely pretty big in the scheme of things when you are going up against an Ashe and a Bard. You can see now it looks like Linderong is beginning to push in just a little bit here. Smeb backing off, not pushing as hard as he once was.
Seonghwan just completely destroyed Score's jungle. Score has nothing to go to. The Scuttle Crab was even taken, and now Seonghwan basically completely content. Now they also know exactly where Score is and where he can go. And so right now, ROX off to another great lead.
Yeah, you know, even a bit better than the last game, just ever so slightly. And Smeb very content to just farm under his turret here. Linderong just putting on a bit of pressure. Bot lane being pushed in as well by KT. Spawn was able to eventually go back and get that tier. Is now farming up in the mid lane. Very even farm there so far.
And what both teams need to be careful of right now is they know that Rek'Sai's right side jungle is going to be coming up momentarily, but they also know that Rek'Sai has no left side jungle. So with Seonghwan having just cleared his left side jungle, it's likely that both junglers are going to collide in bottom lane. And so it can end up actually being a race to who can get to river first. And you can see that Seonghwan actually opts into the combat stats inside of the Warhammer.
We'll see if he wants to force something down here. For now, it looks like the bot lane of KT is just going to head on backwards. Key able to clear out some wards. Some more trading in the mid lane. Pawn does have to be careful here, as Mickey does get the slightly better trade. Now, Key going to come in here, clear out a control ward. Just clear up around that mountain, Drake.
And the first item for Deft is actually a BF sword, which is not the common Blade of the Ruin King that so many Korean AD carries have been building on the ladder. And even one of our fellow SpoTV 80 carries, Captain Jack, actually elects for the Goonsu's variation.
It's kind of interesting to see the variations as the players come into competitive play. Just wants to get more of that upfront damage, I suppose. Now, Seonghwan all alone in this lane is just going to have to sit on back. You can see Mata coming on in here, wants to deny this XP. Perhaps try to, you know, even up that XP gap that was there from before, from that gank from Score.
You can see that Deft has created quite a CS advantage down in bottom lane, and Deft actually has the level lead over Songyun, but that's because the minion wave hasn't yet come into the turret. And there's quite a big wave for Songyun to eat right now. But Songyun opted into a Warhammer as well, so he's going to have reduced cooldown on the Hawk Shot, his ultimate, his volley, but that's definitely a very uncommon item to see on Ashe.
Oh, nice stop on the DPS there, and uh-oh. Looks like they are going to try to TP onto Seonghwan, who just safeguards away onto Mickey. Here you go, Miasma to slow down Score. Are they going to be able to burst him down? And there he goes! The huge Q from Lee Sin, able to pick up that kill. Now trying to go in onto Pawn, maybe going a little bit too far. Mickey is so low, is able to just barely get out of there. Linderong joins on up, and even though Lee Sin does go down, Poppy there to save the rest of her team from any further damage.
Yeah, and Mickey barely escaping by the skin of his teeth. That could have gotten really bad for KT. Fortunately for them, Mata was there. He was able to save Smeb from going down there as well. And now Mata trying to get some more vision control down. They know that blue is up for Mickey, and so now it becomes a little bit of a guessing game. Which part of the jungle is Seonghwan going to go to first? But before we talk about that, let's just see exactly what's happening. So they see that Pawn is trying to get handed off the blue buff, and then they call Smeb down, and they try to use Ryze ultimate to flank. But unfortunately, Mickey was actually already in position, and because of the grounded, Score couldn't do anything, and he just gets blown up instantly. And meanwhile, Smeb couldn't find the way to execute Mickey, and Mata having to blow the flash there after having getting kicked away, but he was able to get the eat off onto Smeb to save him as Linderong ulted him away.
Looks like we missed a kill in the mid lane too during that replay. Mickey perhaps caught out there by Score Pawn combination. I thought Pawn was going to head back, and maybe Mickey did too, so he stuck around a little bit too long, and they took advantage of that. Were able to pick up that kill.
Really nice by Linderong just now. Actually stopped Smeb's lunge. And a nice little breath of fresh air actually for KT with that kill in mid. And you can see that Ryze already has the Catalyst of Aeons, he has the Negatron. And right now, Mickey's going to be actually under a lot of danger. Pawn still has his cleanse up, but without Mickey having his cleanse, anything with Ryze involved can get really scary when you consider his route.
Yeah, that's very true. And looking down here at bot lane, nice dodges there by Songyun, but they're not really able to set anything up with the Ash Arrow just yet. That Tom Kench being a big player there and not allowing that to happen. Just trading down a bit there. They do hand off blue buff to Mickey, and that means they could potentially try to set up this Mountain Drake with the blue Casio, but there is one ward from KT to spot it, and they're not going to try to go for that risky play before they set up any other plays first.
Yeah. And the problem for Songyun right now is that if you need to ult anyone, it actually has to be Mata. You can't ult Deft as... hold that thought.
This. Mickey just getting exhausted, and 3 members going to jump onto him. There was really nothing he could do. No flash, no cleanse, and just a really nice gank as ROX Tigers did not have any vision. Now the Magical Journey going to be set up and will allow Seonghwan to back off. Is KT going to be able to turn this into any objectives? Doesn't look like it for now. They just pick up another kill onto a Summoner Spell-less Cassiopeia in the mid lane.
And Mata now back down here in bottom lane. That's going to negate any attempt that ROX would try to blow Deft up. But Seonghwan is actually here, and they do have a control ward, so they know that he's not on top of a ward. Yeah, and taking a quick look... Oh, never mind.
We just had that replay. You can see they were trying to set it up, and here we go. The miss ultimate and the eat, but a really nice kick onto Mata is going to perhaps pick up this kill. Key taking a ton of damage, though. It looks like he will just barely get away. Eating a little bit too much of that tower damage. Now here comes Score, going to take the Magical Journey himself. An unbelievable hit there from Deft onto Key, picking up that kill. And this guy, he is just off the chain tonight.
Bard Hawk down as Deft was able to get that max range Varus arrow to pick up Key. And that's not a turn of events that ROX would have wanted right now. Although Songyun backed up, he has no mana. Seems like he wants to actually wait for the next minion wave. But in the meantime, Score able to get some intel on Seonghwan's right side jungle, and now apply pressure to Mickey, who's actually forced to back up. He looks like he might go and dirty farm a little bit.
You could tell he's just a bit scared, and with that amount of pressure and no vision around this Mountain Drake, they're going to try to do a quick Mountain Drake with both Pawn and Score. I think they did see Lee Sin heading back as well as that bot lane, so lots of DPS coming down here. Bart's not going to be able to contest that all by himself. That will be the Mountain Drake going on over to KT.
Another first Mountain Drake, similarly to game number 1, picked up by KT. And this will play a role later on when trying to secure the Baron, as it's going to enable them to obviously clear it much sooner. And taking a look at this replay, you can see that Mata was just able to pick up Deft into his mouth. They got the heal off. The multi-man ultimate from Deft actually locked up Songyun a little bit longer, and it enabled Score to enter the fray. And then right here, the arrow from Deft was able to pick up that final kill.
Yeah, max range. He ate one or too many extra turret shots. He was just barely in range, and definitely a small mistake that did lead to his death there. It was a nice job by KT to keep Deft alive for so long. Mata showing his skills on the Tahm Kench. And we did see, off the back of that, KT actually able to push the bot lane turret as well. So lots of objectives being taken very early on this time for KT.
Yeah. And definitely they are in the driver's seat in a way. But right now, Sungwon and Key looking to secure vision around River and possibly even inside Score's red side jungle. But Songyun is just under so much pressure. You look at the CS deficit in bottom lane, and that's not what you want to have occurring right now. And it also seems that Songyun's actually rushing into Essence Reaver as his first item.
Yeah, it looks like, and I mean, they can't really let Deft get to the place that he was in the last game. He's got an even bigger lead this time around. Pawn, he's been totally fine in the mid lane against Mickey against that cast. He's had a lot of support from both his top and his jungle to come down and just get those early ganks and keep that lane even. So ROX not even able to get the advantage from that lane matchup.
And if ROX thought they had trouble getting onto Deft last game, it's going to be a lot more difficult this time around. Trying to get vision inside of KT's blue side jungle as the game goes on is going to probably prove to be extremely difficult. And even if they do find a way onto Deft, Tahm Kench just able to save him from anything, really. It's going to be really, really difficult for them to get onto him.
Yeah, lots of threats in the front line as well that they have to get through. And with that poke that Varus does have, is going to be quite hard. So here they come. Ultimate trying to come down. They do ult onto Deft and actually get the lead onto Deft just barely. Does Mata. He still does go down. But a nice try there from Mata, trying to make the best out of a poor situation. Just barely not able to save him.
Yeah, I think Deft didn't expect to die. He still has heal up and didn't elect to use it. And ROX going to be able to raise that turret in mid lane. And now, I mean, ROX is going to be able to back up, eat their jungle. Mickey definitely looking to pick up his blue as they don't, well, ROX Tigers stealing away KT's blue, but now Pawn is here actually to take the blue. It doesn't look like Mickey wants to contest him.
Kind of just going to give this one away, as can't really do much at this point. Mickey just backing up, going all the way around. Let's take a look at this replay. You can see the Bard ultimate does secure Mata down there, and they ult onto Deft. Really nice play.
And you can see that even though Mickey's ultimate missed, they were still able to pick up the kill. And that's what I was talking about earlier, where if you want to get the AD carry, you have to lock down the Tahm Kench first.
And they were able to do just that. So barely able to pick up that kill and does get the mid turret. So now kind of shoring up that gold lead that KT once had. It's only about 1,100 gold. But now it looks like KT may want to pressure this mid lane. They still have a lot of poke with Deft, who still very, very farmed out at 151 CS so far. Just going to poke it down a little bit. Can be in the front and, you know, just do that poke damage once again because of Mata on that Tahm Kench.
And meanwhile, Smeb just continuing to farm up in top lane. And we haven't really seen a full-fledged team fight break out yet. But when it does, the ROX Tigers are going to be heavily reliant on having all their summoners and ultimates up to really just fight against that Tahm Kench, who's able to save his allies from all the pick potential that ROX has.
Yeah, I mean, you were saying we haven't really seen much of Smeb either. He's 2-0, sitting even with Poppy at this point in time, so he's definitely going to have to be a focus point if they cannot get onto that Varus. And keep in mind they have the threat of Ryze in the front as well. So definitely a lot of threats for this KT team, is at least.
They keep sending Pawn into bottom lane. He does have that ultimate to join fights in mid if necessary. The range on it is not so big, but definitely want to keep putting farm onto him right now, as neither team is really in a position to begin the siege war.
can see how well ROX has done with getting rid of the vision already in the enemy team. Just not a lot of wards down there. They do have one in the bottom side river, and one control ward as well, but that's about it. And KT just sitting back. They know they don't have vision there, but they did see them come into their jungle.
Oh. And this is actually a really nice bait. Tahm Kench's ultimate is available, so they can easily secure a flanks here onto ROX.
Let's see if they actually want to go in for this. They are going to secure both Pawn and Score for the setup. The Ash Arrow just barely misses. They're not going to be able to get onto Pawn off the back of that. Now ROX Tigers is going to have to back off. Not able to secure any kills off of that.
Well, the ROX Tigers might be able to secure this turret and then get the dragon, but in the meantime, Smeb, oh, he did cancel his teleport. He's going to be able to pick up the top turret, so that's a victory. And now Deft and Score just trying to poke.
And it looks like they will be able to take out this turret, just barely. But lots of delays on recalls here from KT. Uh-oh, Deft, he did get poisoned. And the follow-up, Mickey trying to go in, do a bit of poke damage. Score eating a bit of damage himself. Oh, Pawn just barely doesn't get stunned there. The ultimate is going to be used to try to secure that one, but no follow-up from Sungwon, and Mata nearby means that Pawn does get away.
Yeah. And Smeb is able to secure that turret in top, while ROX did get the turret in bottom lane. And I think what Mickey was trying to do there was just apply a lot of damage so that the dragon would be that much easier to take, but it doesn't look like they actually want to take it. And meanwhile, Pawn in mid lane not able to be picked up by Linderong there, as Mata was right nearby. Continues to get free farm, and he got a lot of turret damage. He might even get the turret.
Sonic Wave does land onto Pawn, but not going to go in onto that one. And the turret does go down as no one from ROX is really there to contest. Smeb, he's just a farming machine. We haven't really seen him outside of the mid lane or coming in here and taking a bit of jungle farm too. We really got to look for this guy, you know, towards the mid game. He already has that black cleaver. Definitely going to be a huge force for this KT team.
Now a little bit of a vision fight happening inside of River. Smeb still up there in the top lane, and what KT might be thinking is they might want to have tried to push out mid and push out top and then look to try to secure Rift Herald before it fades, because that would be an excellent pickup to put onto Smeb at this point in the game.
That controller has been there up in the top lane for quite a while. Finally, they do spot that one and take it down. ROX beginning to group up towards mid lane. Songhyun, man, has to be careful. Does get poked a bit by Varus.
You can see those Varus arrows. Definitely a very real threat. Mata right over the edge in case anything would happen. But Score trying to get this dragon, not going to be able to.
The Hawkshot does spot that out. Unfortunately, they are going to have to give that one up to ROX. They were trying to steal it, but he does get spotted, caught in the act. And finally, that Cloud Drake does go over to the ROX Tigers.
Now, the Cloud Drake, I mean, as the ROX Tigers do get it, the map is quite wide open, but the problem is that KT is just content to keep farming up that Ryze and that Varus, and we saw them do this last game, although the AD carry was Ezreal in that game. But the problem still is going to arise where how does ROX actually make picks? This time they don't have the Malzahar, they do have a Bard, but this time KT has Tahm Kench. And so as the game keeps drawing on, if they can't find picks like they were getting in the game before, I feel like this game is going to have a lot worse of a mid into late transition than the prior one.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, basically all ROX was able to get done in the previous game was through their picks, and they don't really have that option here, so they're going to have to try it a different way. Maybe try to take a mid-game fight into Baron and get the ball rolling off of that, perhaps. Cassio, pretty decent late-game mid-champion as well. Maybe they can rely on her to do a bit of damage with the engage from Ashe.
And interestingly enough, Sungwon actually didn't elect to try to get some wards on Wolves to set up for flank wards for Linderong in coming moments, but Pawn waiting in the brush. Mickey does not know that he's here.
Pawn, he doesn't go for it. And the rest of ROX, you know, we had both Lee Sin and Bard waiting nearby, almost as if they were waiting for someone to come up and defend to try to go for a dive, but very smartly from Pawn, he does not eat the bait and is going to survive and just clear that up.
Smeb and Linderong having a little bit of a poke war. And you can just see the vision fight over KT's blue side jungle. That's the part of the map that ROX Tigers needs to secure vision control over to get Linderong the flank teleport ward.
Oh, look at that. Someone going deep. Lands that Q. No one is there to follow up on any damage. So just, again, another vision ward around that Baron. Not much action here on the map just yet. You can see Smeb, even close to the enemy turret, is winning that trade against Linderong, but will back off now.
Back off indeed, but the problem is going to be that Poppy doesn't answer to Fiora later on, and you're not going to want to have to pull Mickey or Seonghwan with Linderong to have to deal with Smeb. And a 4 or 5 item Fiora is going to go completely uncontested in her split push, and so that clock is also on.
Yeah. You can see Seonghwan is trying to get something down on Tavares in the mid lane, but Modest is chilling right behind him. He's like, okay, yeah, try to go for it. I dare you. I'll be right there to save my ADC. And, you know, once again, some more trading down here.
Interestingly enough, actually, Archangel's staff, the item of choice for Pawn this time around, I think that really speaks to him wanting the utility of the active once he completes it into Seraph's Embrace a lot earlier than last game. Just able to hold on to that Negatron Cloak. And actually, speaking of Seraph's Embrace, it is now completed. And with everyone having 2 items right now, they might just be waiting for Score to get his Dead Man's Plate and then start having team fights.
That could be. They are going to have to wait just a bit for that. Looks like Lee Sin along that path as well. Lots of recalls here from the ROX Tigers, as once again, we're kind of just waiting for items to be built. And looks like Fiora won the pushing war, but she has to be careful here as Seonghwan pushes in. But look at that amount of damage that she does onto Seonghwan, even with the armor and the Giants build.
You can see that the ROX Tigers don't really have an answer to it. Score just barely able to actually use this tunnel, not grounded by Mickey there.
Eats about half his health and damage in the meantime. Is going to be forced to recall, and maybe ROX can make something happen. Ping's going down onto that second tier mid turret. The Pawn up at top is going to force a response there, perhaps. It looks like, no, they just want to go down mid lane, perhaps look for a pick.
Yep, they're trying to go down mid, but how do you go down mid at this stage of the game against Tavares? You don't really have the ability to threaten him when Mata on Tahm Kench is right by his side, and you can begin to see the problems that the ROX team composition has as the game draws on. They don't have an answer to Smeb, they don't have an answer to Pawn, and Pawn can relocate basically on a whim whenever KT needs him to.
Very true. I'd love to see how much health is left on that bot tier 2 turret for ROX. You can see it's a little bit grayed out there, so perhaps around half health. Fiora's just going right down there once again. You can see Score hanging around too. Do have a Drake coming up soon.
And right now Mickey picking up some farm in top. It looks like he wants Void Staff as his 3rd item of choice. And everyone else is, I mean, it's the same story as game number 1. KT recognizes that it's not their job to make something happen. It's the Tigers, and eventually we're going to hit a point where they're just going to be able to control the chokehold leading into the Baron River, and ROX doesn't have a way to get onto them without those wards that Seonghwan and Keys have to find a way to place.
You can see lots of members of ROX heading back now. And you were talking about Mickey. Oh, the huge ultimate is going to catch out Smeb. He should be able to go down. Nice catch there. Smeb getting a little bit too far into the enemy jungle. Wasn't expecting Mickey in there taking his blue.
Yep. And a little bit of a pickup for the Tigers. They'll probably be able to secure the upcoming Dragon with that pickup. They do have teleport on Linderong. And the Drake is a Cloud Drake.
That does pop up there, and Linderong just going to continue pushing bot here after getting that Fiora down. So maybe they push that first and then go for an objective.
We can see what's happening here as Smeb kills the control ward, so they know that he's there. And then as he walks forward to get a ward, Mickey was just waiting in the brush and was just able to pick up a kill really easily.
Yeah, you were talking about they don't really want to send Mickey over to support. Now hold that thought. He was just there to get his blue buff, and now with blue buff, they can really begin to burn down that Baron, even without the Mountain Drake. Here comes Mata and Deft, attempting to get some poke on down. Sangyu taking a bit of damage, but the flash here from the Cassiopeia, eating so much damage, though, from the Rise. He does get the kill. Mata picking that one up, and so much damage being taken here. Eating Deft, does keep it alive. Lee Sin will go down, and this is just a botched Baron pickup. 3 members of the ROX Tigers are going to be picked off, and KT is easily going to be able to transition into taking this Baron.
Yep, they're going to take that Baron indeed, and then a mid-wave minion wave is colliding in mid, and they're going to be able to tap that really quickly and run that up mid. Don't know if they'll actually push on, doesn't seem so. They're recalling, and you can just see that the Baron call was a little bit overeager as Deft was able to land his ultimate, Pawn dealing massive amounts of damage, and then they almost actually got onto Deft, but Mata able to get there and pick him up. Even though he did have to use his summoners, it didn't matter as KT was able to pick up the Baron in the end. And we get to see on the live replay, they're picking up the Cloud Drake as well.
You must be loving this Tom Kent pick so far. It's been really crucial to keeping Deft alive so far, and just the rest of his team. Even if he doesn't have to use his abilities, just the threat of the support of Tom Kent is taking a lot of the pick potential away from ROX. And definitely pretty overeager to try to go for that Baron. There was one ward that spotted them, and enough of KT was around to begin poking them down before they went in there. And, you know, Mickey also going for the flash ult, maybe a little bit too overeager. But here we go. Rise trying to ult on out, will just barely get out. Not able to pick him off.
You just got to see why they can't really also get onto Pawn, and KT is executing this 1-3-1 flawlessly and then just moving score around the map wherever he needs to be, and it's just a very well executed stranglehold, and ROX is falling apart everywhere to it.
Yeah, it's quite nice. I mean, we have just been seeing KT dominate from that first game, you know, Deft putting on a bit of a show, but now I feel like the composition and their play has just been pretty stellar here for KT so far. You were talking about no real answer to Smeb here from Poppy. Well, he just comes on in, and even if he dies, here comes Sangyun, and he will be able to go down. No getting away from there, but he pulls Ashe away, so they take the tier 2 mid turret. Oh, here comes the Bard ult, but Score still pretty tanky. Are they going to try to go on to him? Nice pop up there from Score, and he even eating a bit of damage, so they're forced to back off. And 2 turrets going to KT for just the death of Fiora at this point. They're totally fine with that.
Oh, Mickey has to be really careful here. And that's what I was talking about, where sure, you can go and kill Smeb, or you can go Pawn, but it's going to come at a cost. And you can see what happens in the other lanes, that if they devote that amount of resources to shutting down either one of them, they don't have the resources to hold their other lanes.
KT with that Baron, just able to take out 2 of those second tier turrets, and not much they can do, as we keep on saying. And Score now attempting to keep the push onto the bot lane. Linderong isn't letting this one go, really wants to get onto Score here. Not going to be able to pick him off, not enough DPS. Score will get out.
Now it looks like KT is going to actually just back up and wait again. We might see them wait for a second Baron, or even for the next Dragon, in order to force a fight for ROX to come to them and use that as their opening. Even though the bottom turret is very low on HP, there's no minion wave that's close enough, although it looks like Smeb's about to go back and do his job. And also, he has a Bloodthirster to just even guarantee that Linderong has no way of out-sustaining him in this split push.
No, there's just no way to 1v1 this guy at this point with all that sustain, as you're talking about, so much lifesteal. And his teleport is about to come up, as is Linderong's. But I would have to agree with you. I mean, there's really no reason for KT to try to force anything. I feel like they just continue farming up. They've got the better late game composition. They are up about 8,000 gold as well. They can just play this one very slowly to make sure that they are going to very confidently take this win.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, like you were saying, they do have the better composition, and when a scaling team is ahead of you in gold, you've got a really big problem. And it does in fact look like they are content to just wait again for another major neutral objective like Baron or Drake to get into the base. There's no reason to rush it right now. Although maybe putting Mata and Deft with Smeb wouldn't be that bad of an idea. still going to be relatively safe as they keep score with Pawn up in top.
It's a cool idea because that bot inhibitor turret is quite low, so they can really put on the pressure if they decide to. But it looks like they're going to back off for now as they are spotted. And none of the members of Tigers are pushing in. A 3.9 thousand gold difference going over to KT this time around using the Baron quite well.
Yeah, this Baron definitely paid off a lot more than the previous game. And they're all just staying stationary basically across the map and waiting. What they really want is for ROX to come out of their base and try to fight them, because there's no way for ROX to do that. But fortunately for them, if you look at the levels of everyone on both teams, KT is higher, so their minions are going to be strong.
Oh, Enchanted Crystal Arrow does go wide, as it seemed like Smeb was able to sniff that one out. He was very much back in the lane. He's like, okay, I think they're around here trying to get a pick. And as you said, they want ROX to come out, but ROX isn't really coming out, which is quite nice. It's basically their only option right now, to sit back and hope that KT makes a mistake. Maybe they can get a pick off of the Enchanted Crystal Arrow and go from there, try to force a 5v4 or something like that.
Baron coming up now in a minute and 20 seconds. Another dragon. This one's not going to be Elder Drake. So KT might just be content to wait until that Baron, and then using Baron plus Varus to just break open the gates in any lane that they choose, really, as the Tigers aren't going to have a way to stop it.
Yeah, they really just have to get a hard engage, perhaps use the Bard ultimate onto Tahm Kench and, you know, get the Enchanted Crystal Arrow onto Deft. If they can get that magical setup once again, then maybe. But again, it's going to be incredibly hard to set up that kind of, you know, grouped up pick.
And I mean, it's even going to be more difficult than normal. As you can see, 2 Solari's Lockets completed for KT here. And oh, Score actually having a flash away.
Oh, they are going to use Bard's ultimate here. Not sure if they're going to be able to get the pick. They do get the pin onto the wall. Score eating in a tremendous amount of health. Picked out of the redemption, and that GA is going to be picked off. They should be able to pick this one. Mickey in the front, also doing a ton of damage. Rek'Sai does go down. Sungwon, though, getting a little bit too far forward. And here comes Smeb from behind. Able to do an immense amount of damage onto Mickey. No saving him there. And they do get the 2-for-1 so far. And KT is still on the chase. Here comes Pawn and Deft. Now Linderong, all alone, will eventually be chipped down. I don't care how tanky Poppy is. She will eventually die. And there you go. His kill. It's going to pick up, it looked like a Cloud Drake once again. And now Baron is up with 3 members of ROX down. KT can essentially do whatever they want.
Yep, and you can see KT knows exactly what they're doing. They don't need Smeb for this Baron call right now. He's able to go bottom lane. He still has his teleport, and they're just going to be able to 3-man Baron, immediately go up to top lane, and just let Smeb do his job. So really impressive, quick, decisive calls coming out of KT, and their macro game is just on a completely other level compared to ROX.
Yeah, it's really fantastic to see. You know, everybody was so hyped for this KT super team, but we've seen it before. You get a team with all these superstars on it, but can they actually play together as a team? And, well, they're sending a message tonight. The answer is definitely yes. We'll have to wait and see how they do against some of the other stronger teams a little bit later on in the season as well. We're just getting another look at how this fight went down.
Yeah, and so you saw Score was caught a little bit out of position, but he did have that Guardian Angel. I was actually a little bit surprised Mata didn't try to save him sooner, but maybe Mata was thinking they would just try to all in on Deft or Pawn, and he wanted to have his W up for that. Meanwhile, Score did go down, but it didn't matter because the damage from everyone else on KT is just too high. Smeb able to kill Cassiopeia. And proc his ultimate, even getting a little bit of help from Baron there on killing Linderong. And then it was all too easy for them to just make the macro calls to put Smeb in bottom lane and pick up the Baron after this.
So now what are you going to do as the ROX Tigers? It was hard before, but after taking a fight like that, well, perhaps a pick on a Pawn will help them out. There he goes, down goes Pawn, and here's Linderong trying to make something happen onto Score as well. Able to pick off one, and there you go. The Bard ultimate coming in. Can they get these slows? Yes, they do. Score is all alone, and down he goes. So that's 2 members of KT now going down and losing their Baron.
Yep. And Pawn and Score both getting punished for a little bit of micro positioning errors. Smeb wasn't able to actually run a minion wave into bottom, so a little bit of breath of fresh air for the ROX Tigers.
Oh, Smeb he's being sneaky. Linderong is pushing quite far up, and he is going to find him now. Linderong, you can see he's already taken so much damage. He is going to have to ult, and down. He does get that ult. Fiora is bopped out of the way.
Popped out of the way indeed. But you can see Smeb right back to it, shoving that wave up into the lane. A little bit surprised he actually didn't escort it into the turret, as he should have known that Linderong was chunked way too much, but he doesn't have any vision to his left, so he probably didn't want to risk anything or risk getting caught out at this point.
Yeah, it's better to play it safe at this point. You can see they were looking for a pick perhaps up in top lane too, but no one biting the bait. Just going to push one more, back off. Blue going to be handed off to Pawn, as Linderong cannot push past this one patch of grass. It's just not going to happen. Smeb is going to be there all game.
Now Smeb killing Gromp, picking up whatever gold he can at this point in time. And KT might just wait until the Elder Dragon, similarly to last game, using the Elder Dragon's buff to just guarantee a higher success rate in the final team fight.
It looked like they were trying to set something up onto Smeb, but then decided against it. They back off. And here we go, a big rotation up into the mid lane, as perhaps they were spotted down there towards bot. And look at this, there's only Mickey for so long. The tower already chunked down to about half health, but the ultimate onto Deft rather. And the ultimate here from Cassiopeia is not going to be able to land onto Deft. Someone in the back, not able to do anything either. And Smeb all alone in the bot lane, just no answer as they tried to set something up in top. And down goes that bot inhibitor.
Yep, KT was able to juggle that perfectly and grant Smeb the time he needed to bust open bottom lane, and then ROX being forced to back away. Now KT's also going to get top inhibitor as well. And even if the Tigers could find some way to kill Pawn, Deft, and Mata here, it wouldn't matter because already too much was lost. And Score coming up the mid lane, escorting the minion wave, and the last inhibitor of the game remaining is in mid. And that's where KT's setting their focus.
You can tell the ROX, they were trying to set up the miracle engage that we were talking about before. Perhaps they could get Smeb here, just going a little bit too far forward. They do, and the rest of KT is not going to push in just yet. They already got 2 inhibitors. Better to just not take the chance, not try to take any 4v5s. Oh, but look at that. Mata is forced to flash away from the enchanted crystal arrow and is on the run. Redemption is not going to hit. Mata, okay, he's going to be kicked back. Not much that he can do. Just going to delay as much as possible. Even going to eat a key here to make it a little bit longer, but does eventually go down. Not the biggest deal in the world.
Yeah. Something that's a little bit interesting was actually why he was, well, we're going to see right here. So they actually timed it, I think, intentionally to try to maybe get both of them, but they only got Mata in the end. Mata was just trying to run away. Pawn was there, but I don't think that Mata would be able to reach Pawn in order to both try to get away. And then you can see Sungwon right there just using Lee Sin's ultimate to guarantee the kill onto Mata. A little bit interesting, though, was that Dragon was spawning in about a minute, and given the death timer, it's a little surprising to not just see Mata die so that he would be up and on the map again sooner.
See what kind of Drake this is here as it does spawn. There it is, the Elder Drake, of course, and they do begin to start it right away. This may be their only chance. But Score, he's got a ward down. We'll see if he's going to be able to steal it. Nice Bard ultimate to deny it, and they do get the Elder Drake. So they do steal that away from KT, but now they have to get away. And Magical Journey is going to afford them that possibility.
Yep. Now they're going up mid lane. The Tigers do have the Elder Drake. Sungwon taking a ton of damage right there, though.
Yeah, not the first time that he's been in the front eating a ton of damage. Has to be careful about that on that Lee Sin. Not as tanky as perhaps some other champions, but trying to just delay for the rest of his team to get out. That they do.
And what ROX needs to do right now is they need to acknowledge that Mata does not have his flash. He can't reposition instantly anymore to try to save a teammate. So if the Tigers are going to try to, take this game back and gain some control, it's going to come at the upcoming Baron fight, which should probably occur in the next 30 seconds or so.
See Smeb still down here. Both him and Linderong still have their teleport. It's just going to make things much harder for Linderong to push out once he gets past this wave. See pings going down towards that Baron. It looks like KT so far has the majority of the vision. Actually, no wards over near Baron for the ROX Tigers, rather. And here comes Pawn to join up with Fiora.
Pawn with Fiora. Pawn is ranged, so if there were a turret or an inhibitor, he would be able to auto-attack it while Fiora would zone for him. But he might be here to just actually ulti Smeb with him to the Baron, if necessary.
It's kind of interesting. They do get some vision down finally. Hawkshot comes out too, so they do know that KT has not started the Baron. Pawn still hanging around mid lane, but you can see Smeb is still in there towards those Nexus turrets going extremely deep, and they're going to start the Baron because of this. You see Mickey had to go back and help out Linderong with Smeb.
It's going to come down to a smite fight, and oh, never mind, actually. They opt out of it instead to just kill Key.
And in the meantime, finally Fiora goes down, but they do trade it for Key. And not sure if worth it. You know, they only get one kill. They lose Smeb in the process, and they were very close to killing that Baron too.
Right, they were very close, and then to make matters even worse, Score is actually 2 levels up over Sunghwan, so he does have a stronger smite.
Look at this, TP coming in. He's actually going to go for it. Doesn't get the stun onto Score. Oh, and trying to pull off an insect is not going to work out here, as Sunghwan is going to be bursted down by Pawn. An immense amount of damage coming out there. Linderong not able to help out his team. Mickey just being chunked down as well. And the blink forward there is going to kill him, and just way too much damage. Even if Ash does get a kill, they will take the team fight. Linderong is going to respawn. And it's just the chase. So many minions already getting to work on those Nexus turrets.
And this just doesn't even matter. Smeb is coming up in 2 seconds. He has teleport available. All that Mata has to do is dance with Linderong and prevent him from recalling. He's not going to be able to stop Fiora, and even if he could, here comes Pawn and Score to help Smeb out, finishing the game. And that's going to probably be it for game number 2. There's no way for ROX Tigers to stop this.
Yeah, just no way at all. Mata still doing his froggy dance in the mid lane with Poppy. It's just going to deny him that recall. And there you go. Key not able to do anything, and KT with an unbelievable start to the LCK 2017 spring season takes a 2-0 victory over the ROX Tigers.